Hello, welcome to the Sound of Science, the place where we deconstruct unscientific bogus and silly scams. Let's go get them. Hello, my wonderful fellow Stardust. Welcome to another glorious day without divine suppression. Today I will do a video on a guy named Logan Joy because I refute both the big boys and the low-tier wannabe apologists because both are funny. But there is more to it. Sometimes these Christian apologists are not just deluded fools, but there are also reprehensible creeps among them, as we will witness today. Remember Logan Joy? He was the guy who said, "Fools believe in God." Oh boy.
The Bible says even a fool believes in God, and I believe that's the truth.
Now today he's got another video, and it's called Atheists Are Wrong. Now of course, in his video he never shows that atheists are actually wrong, because he never even addresses one thing that an atheist said. So the title of his video doesn't make any sense. Instead, he repeats a few of the bad arguments for the existence of a God. And we've heard, refuted and dismissed those arguments a million times. But this time, he invited a guest to his video. And sweet mother of Gandalf. Their reasoning is so poor that these guys should start a comedy show. Let's roll.
So what would be your best argument to an atheist for the existence of God?
Now, pay attention because this is very important. This guy is going to give us his best argument for the existence of a God. So all the other arguments he has are worse than this one. Are you ready?
I can't remember his name, but he asked a question, and I asked that same question in a paper I wrote at Pico, because he was asked, if there's a God, well, why is there so much bad in the world? And obviously, of all the stuff that happens, but he asked, well, if there isn't a God, why is there so much good in the world?
So, let's recap this. So this guy is asked, what is your best argument for the existence of a God? His best argument. And then he says, well, Christians often get the question, if there is a God, then why is there so much bad in the world? Which is a very logical question because this supposed almighty and loving God doesn't seem to care about people being murdered, raped and tortured. He just lets all that stuff continue for thousands of years now, making himself indistinguishable from a non-existing God. And you know what the answer is that most Christians give to this question? Well, humans did it. Humans murder, rape and torture, so it's not God's mistake. Humans did it, which by the way is totally not an answer to the question, because the question is not why God rapes, tortures and murders. The question is, why does God let it continue? But anyway, many Christians nonetheless answer, well, humans did it. And now we get this guy who gives his best argument for the existence of a God, and that is, if there is no God, why is there so much good in the world? Well, dummy, humans did it. It's so easy. The answer was there all along in the explanations of your fellow Christians. If humans do the bad things while your God is doing nothing, then of course humans also do the good things while your God is doing nothing. Now remember, this was the best argument for the existence of his God. Sweet Uncle of Frodo.
There was a pastor recently, I don't know if you saw, that said he went to hell. There's a whole channel on YouTube, Randy K Ministries. He interviews people that have been to heaven or hell.
Oh, sweet sister of Gollum. No, you gullible jellyfish ice cream for brains. These people say say they went to heaven or hell. They say it. If people say something, it doesn't mean it's true. Otherwise, you would believe the people who say they were abducted by the Rainbow Sisters from Venus. Don't you see the difference? If people say something, it doesn't mean it's true. If you want to know if it's true, you need to assess the evidence. And all you've got is them saying they went to heaven or hell. That's not the evidence, it's the claim. Sweet grandmother of Sauron. The lack of reasoning capacities boggles the mind, at least my mind.
I think that's a secret that's kept within like doctors. Like doctors hear these stories constantly, but they don't share it because that's not their responsibility to do so.
Right.
Oh dear, and of course we could wait for it. A good old conspiracy theory. This time it's doctors. All the doctors in the whole world, they conspire. They know that people resurrect from the dead. And in between they went to heaven or hell. Your own doctor at the end of the street is in the conspiracy as well, just so you know.
For me, that's not the best argument for me for the existence of God.
No, because it's not an argument for anything at all. It's just you unfolding another crazy conspiracy theory.
What is good and what is bad, and by what standard are we measuring good and bad?
Exactly.
Because it's all subjective if you don't have God. If you don't have that foundation, I think morality actually is a strong argument for God.
The moral argument, which is not an argument for anything at all. And even if we were to consider it an argument, it totally disproves what it claims to prove. You see, if there is a God, and his will is our morality, then morality would be even more subjective, because imagine that, basing your entire morality upon the personal opinion of one individual. That's about the definition of subjective. Now, if some people, preferably a whole bunch of people from different walks of life, would add some balance and nuance to that, then at least morality will get a bit more intersubjective. But letting morality being decided by just one extremely powerful ruler would result in an extremely subjective morality.
If you just look outside, I think that's good evidence.
The good old look at the trees argument, which basically is just repeating the claim that a God exists, because apologists never prove or even explain how that creation process works. What materials did God use to create trees? Where did he got those materials from? How did he move those materials to the location of the tree? What tools or machinery did he use, etc.? Without those answers, it's just another magical claim. God doesn't use materials and locations and machinery because he is timeless and spaceless and immaterial. That's not an explanation. It's another magical claim that you've just stacked upon previous magical claims. Now you have to prove even more. This is how most so-called answers or explanations of apologists work. They make a magical claim, and when you ask them to prove their claim, they just phrase another magical claim.
I mean, what point is there to live if there's no God?
Oh dear, there we go again. What point is there to live if there is no God? Well, there is love and goodness in this world, but also rape, murder, and torture. So your God makes himself indistinguishable from a non-existing God. So to me, there is no reason to believe that your God exists. Therefore I live as if there is no God and if there is no heaven and hell. And I enjoy every freaking day of my life doing the things I love, helping friends and family, enjoying the sunshine on my face. But you, apologist, you threaten me with your eternal fires in hell. So I'm asking you, why so serious? Ooh, what's that? Never mind.
With a certain level of free will, people having the will and the free will to choose, you're gonna have evil.
Yes, of course, that's what atheists are trying to tell you all the time. People do it. People are responsible. They do good and they do bad. The problem arises when you claim there is some almighty God who is loving, but who for some reason lets murder, rape and torture exist, making him indistinguishable from a non-existing God. You see, what would the world look like with your God? Well, you'd have people doing good things and people doing bad things. And what would the world look like without your God? Well, exactly the same.
I think God has ultimately a good plan for evil. He allows certain evil to happen, and ultimately, and we can't see it, we can't understand it.
Yeah, letting rape, murder and torture exist, you think that's a good plan, really? And then afterwards, all those children and people who have been raped and murdered and tortured, if they don't obey your God, they will also be burned forever in the fires of hell. And you think that is a good plan? And you worship someone who organized all of that? Are you out of your mind?
You know what I mean? Because if you were to say, well, murdering somebody is wrong, but then you say, well, by whose standard?
Yeah.
And this is where it gets very disturbing. No, you don't say by whose standard. You say murdering someone is wrong, period. By all accounts, because by suggesting that there are biblical justifications to refute that murdering someone is wrong, you might encourage crazy people to do horrible things in the name of your religion. So say after me, murdering someone is wrong.
Well, let's say, for instance, a bunch of kids get shot up and killed, like what just happened. Only God can turn that into something good.
Yes, and this is where your story switches from deluded to disgusting. You're now suggesting that there might be good reason why children are being murdered, so that your God can turn it into a good thing. Shame on you. Go tell this to the parents and the brothers and the sisters of those poor children. There's only one thing I can say regarding your twisted idea. You have had enough of this. But while you're here, please consider to subscribe to my channel. That way you can help me to refute more of these idiots and spread the sound of science.